I think we're live. I think we're live. I think we're live. I think we are live. Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to episode 2 of my journey, A Butterfly Bootcamp Tale. So, as I was preparing for today, I felt like, I'm going to relay a little story about how my relationship is with spirit. Because sometimes it just cracks me up, sometimes it's hilarious. And so Spirit and I have this kind of ongoing, I don't know if you would call it a battle necessarily. Let's say there's a dynamic. I always think I need to do stuff, and Spirit keeps telling me to stop doing things, just do nothing. So that's as a recovering workaholic, that's generally my medicine, is to not do anything. So here's how it played out this week. So earlier this week, I actually ended up doing 2 healings on myself because, once again, it's hard to unlearn workaholic habits, especially when we love the work. I love the work, and I just always want to be doing it. So the first one I did, I'm actually going to grab my notes here. The first one I did, what came through was, let's see. So there were a few things that came through. One, there was a blade that came through, and that usually means it's time to cut ties to the past, which makes perfect sense because we're in the south of the medicine wheel, and the work of the south is to shed the past the way a serpent sheds her skin. And I also got this message that it's time to dance around the sun. And the sort of teaching I got about that for myself is that the sun for me needs to be taken in doses, because the sun is a very powerful force. It can give life, or it can destroy. It can cause death. So when I did this healing, it decided to be in B flat minor. So if you're following along and you're a musician, this song is going to be in B flat minor. And at the physical level, there was this notion that there's a relationship between the eye and the serpent, because the eye represents our perspective, and our perspective has a profound effect on our physical reality. Our perspective has a tangible, palpable effect on how we feel and how we operate in the real world. At the emotional level, I saw all these sparrows come through. Oh, look, there goes one behind. I don't think that's a sparrow. I'm here in Arizona. You can see by the palm tree through the window at the mandatory shades. Shout out to my girl Nikki for hooking me up with the co-work space. But yeah, they don't turn the air conditioning on the weekends, so I'm still waiting for it to cool down to a suitable temperature. But when I looked up the meaning of sparrows, sparrows have an affiliation with the goddess Rhiannon. And so the song that I'm going to sing for you today is a song that is sort of dedicated to Rhiannon. And at the mythic level, there were mountains and horses, and Rhiannon was known for riding on horseback. And at the energetic level, there was the image of the sheep, which to me is a metaphor for wool, which is a metaphor for weaving the tapestries of our social fabric. So what also came through was the idea that it's important to step into cronehood, I'll call it. It's time to step into being a wise woman, being a wise elder, being the person in our communities. And I'm calling not just me, I'm calling all of us who are of a certain age. Maybe you are postmenopausal, or maybe you are already finished with one career and you're in some other phase of your life. It was about really stepping into that and really celebrating how all of our stories, all of our wounds, all of our baggage, all of our pain, when we transmute that into beauty, that is one of the most empowering things we can do for ourselves. So the funny thing is, the inner critic it takes so long for the inner critic to really die. And so somehow in the middle of the week, I felt like that wasn't a sufficient enough message from Spirit or task. I clearly that was sort of my own internal critic judging. And I even literally wrote in my notebook, crone, ... is that all, ? So shame on me for diminishing and minimizing the importance of the work of being a wise elder in our community. Those of you who have already started on your ascension journey and you're already awake and you kind of know what I mean. So on Friday the 13th, I decided I needed to do another healing. Yesterday was Friday the 13th. So I pulled a card, and the card was flow. And flow really, I think one of the messages of it was to just be in flow the way the artist who is divinely inspired channels through songs, which is what I've been doing for the last couple of years of my life. So that was the reminder to let it be easy. A jellyfish emerged in one of my meditations yesterday, which again is about surrendering and allowing the flow to take us where Spirit wants to take us. So once again, I did the tracking for myself, and at the physical level, there was a sundial and a clock and a compass, and again, this image of the sun came up. And there was also this heart-centered starburst. And then there was this, what I thought was an umbrella, but it's actually, so it's either a para-chuva or a parasol, so it can either block the rain or block the sun. And then I saw this, at the energetic level, I saw a pinwheel or a circular saw, and so there was something about the cycles there going on. And so first, what I want to do is I want to read you the sort of immediate automatic writing that came through the other day, which then turned into the song I'm going to sing. And then I want to tell you what happened yesterday when I was doing this healing on myself. So when Rhiannon came to visit, and when I was sitting with my sand painting, and I'm going to share photos of that next week in the third episode. I'm going to share how the sand painting transformed over the course of the week. I'll talk about it today, but you'll see the images next week. So when I was sitting in meditation with my sand painting, this idea of the withered roses came through. And, pardon me, I'm going to try to read and not block my face. Withered roses in my desert garden, so beautiful in their frailty. She reminds me of the delicate balance of life as it hangs on a precipice. Lying dead on the desert floor, she reminds me of the power of the sun to give life and to cause it to wither and fade. But even still, her memory remains. The stark contrast of her delicate curves lying brittle and fragile on the tiny pebbles and the grains of sand. She sits in stillness, oblivious to the colony of ants, diligently marching all around, gathering their supplies for the winter that never comes. They seem so out of place, next to the faded, sun-bleached wood and rocks, and yet their life shines through even as the beauty fades. Somehow, these dried-out petals seem to be more alive in their stark contrast than they were when they were watered and freshly cut in their vase. These shapes, frozen in time as the wind and sun carry her essence back to the earth, ephemeral and yet enduring as they are etched into my memory. So that became a song, which I'm going to sing for you in a little bit. But I want to kind of follow up with what happened yesterday. So once I did the tracking, and that message about the sun, in Phoenix, it really is hard for me to be in Phoenix in the summers. It's been, for years, when I was living here, the summers, I would just get a headache, I would get really grouchy, I would get depressed. It was always a really hard time. It is the end of the summer, so it's not so bad right now, but it did get to 110 a few times, and it's been over 100, I think, every day since I've been here. And so it's been a good reminder that I need to have the sun in doses. But the first half of that sentence, I need to have the sun, is also important because I just spent a couple of years or a year and a half or however long I was there in Erie, Pennsylvania, which has actually been quite a lovely year this year, but it is known sort of for not having as much sunlight as other places. And so I recognized that any of these things that give us life, we have to take in the right dose. Just like any of the things that might be poisonous, we have to take in the right dose. And so as I was preparing to do the sealing, what I thought was supposed to happen is I thought I had gotten a message that I was supposed to do what I call the ushering of souls. Every once in a while I get a call that I need to support, that there's some souls that are lost here or stuck here or haven't quite figured out how to transition. And so I thought, oh, well, maybe that's what I'm supposed to do. Because when I checked all my chakras, they were all fine. And so there was nothing out of alignment. And I was like, what's the deal? What am I supposed to do? And then I just got this message: don't do anything. Stop doing. Do nothing. And I was like, all right, okay. All right, I've gotten this message before. I get it frequently. Just do nothing. So here it was, a Friday afternoon, in a state where I'm full of gratitude for the fact that here in the state of Arizona, there is both medicinal and recreational marijuana available legally and safely. So I said, you know what? If I'm going to do nothing, Spirit, if that's how it's going to be, I'm going to go to the dispensary. And I had been putting it off because I wasn't sure I wanted to, have that on hand. But I thought, okay, it's been almost 2 weeks now since I have been here. I may as well take this opportunity from Spirit to just do nothing and rest and relax. So I went to the dispensary. And as I was waiting in line, you're chatting with the other folks who are there for their Friday afternoon treat that they're going to take home with them. And someone said something, oh, blah, 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 it's Friday the 13th. And I sort of jokingly said, all hail to the witches. And the guy, two people in front of me, turned around like, what is she talking about? And then I said to the guy in front of me, I said, oh, I think I might have scared a couple of people. And he kind of chuckled, and he looked at me and said, wait, are you a witch for real? And I kind of smiled, and I said, well, I'm a shaman, but my family calls me a witch doctor, so, whatever people want to say, it doesn't really bother me. And then he sort of got curious, and then we started talking about energy and crystals and sacrifice, and I was like, well, rethink sacrifice, because right now we're sacrificing our hard-earned money to get this herbal refreshment that's going to replenish us and help us feel relaxed and feel good. And he was kind of, digging on that. And it reminded me of how much the universe loves it when we experience joy. The universe loves it when we experience bliss. And so just that little exchange, that sort of friendliness, that we're all just looking to do whatever we can in the world, enjoy ourselves when we can, and just try to be good people, right? That's sort of like a general basic philosophy of mine. So when I got back home, I enjoyed my treat, and I had forgotten, especially because if you know how it works, if you wait at least 3 or 4 days, is what I've been told by medical marijuana advocates. If you wait 3 days, you can re-stimulate your, I guess we would call that our tolerance, right? And so the euphoria can be a little bit stronger if you have waited, a few days in between. And I just started remembering so many beautiful experiences of how I learned what it is that I do. And when I was imagining what am I supposed to do today before the Spirit was like, do nothing, that whole idea that I am a shepherd or an usher for souls who need support transitioning, who haven't been able to figure it out on their own, and they just need, someone to guide them, lead the way, and send them up into the holy, healing, ancestral realms. I remembered a couple years ago when I realized that's who I am. I open the door for people. It's in my fucking name. My name is Laurelann Porter. I will open the door for you. You have to walk through it. And I'll give you a map and a guide, but you have to walk through the journey. But I can open the door for you. Which to me is really what Butterfly Bootcamp is all about. So the other thing I was reminded of when I put on some of my own music last night, because I was like, oh, let's just relax and have fun. And in the first song on my 2023 album, Soul Journeying, which is a song that's dedicated to, I think it's called Prelude to an Ayahuasca Ceremony. There are a couple of phrases that the shamans tend to repeat throughout the night when you're in ceremony. And one of those phrases is, in English it would be, there is only us, e depois de nós é nós de novo. So there is only us, and after that, there is only us and us again. And the second phrase that they say is, só alegria, there is only joy. And part of that is that reminder, because sometimes the ayahuasca experience can be pretty intense for folks, and to just be reminded, this is a loving experience, so let's invite in joy and love. And that idea that there's only us, and after that there's only us again, once you realize what that means, once you identify as being part of the whole collective, and you realize that there is no separation, that we are all part of one universal consciousness, that's where it's at. That's the name of the game, baby. That is what I'm talking about. Because then it makes it really easy to look at everyone with love and compassion and forgiveness, because you realize how we're all interconnected. So that was the message last night when Spirit told me to just do nothing and to really just experience that bliss and that euphoria. So first, next, it's not first, we've been going for a little while now, I'm going to sing the brand new song that just came through this week for you all. And I'm calling it, what am I calling it? Where did I put it? I'm calling it Silver Moon Song. And I have a little track to go with it, so let's get us back to the beginning. Make sure all the other versions of me are muted. Yes, they are. Okay, so this one is dedicated to the goddess Rhiannon and all of us who are stepping into our roles as crones and wise women in the world. This is Silver Moon Song. I thought I saw Rhiannon on a horse with the wind in her hair. The golden light had faded, she was silvery and pale. Sparrows round her head, singing of their messages of hope, showing me the way to be free, untethered by the rope. The withered roses in my desert garden, so frail and beautiful in the early morning, lying dead on the desert floor, they show the power of the sun. While I dream of Rhiannon in the light of the silver moon song, my ancient Celtic ancestors wouldn't know what to do in the desert here. Rattlesnakes and scorpions trying to keep us living in fear. The ants keep marching on and on and on, gathering food for a winter that never comes. The withered roses in my desert garden, so frail and beautiful Lying dead on the desert floor, they show the power of the sun. While I dream of Rhiannon in the light of the silver moon song. I'm a Celtic goddess trapped in the body of a desert rat. I've weathered all these storms. I tell you I'm not going back. I've held my lovers tenderly and tilled the harsh soil of this place. My beauty comes from the wisdom of every single line in my face. The withered roses in my desert garden, so frail and beautiful in the early morning, lying dead on the desert floor, they show the power of the sun. While I dream of Rhiannon in the light of a silver moon song. So that is the brand new song that was just born this week through shamanic artistry. No, I don't need to save the song before I close it. So I want to share with you just a little bit about one of the other lessons that came through this week. And again, I'm going to show you the photos of it in my live stream next week. But I took pictures of the sand painting. And the sand painting is a practice that we do in shamanism where we take our medicine stones or our ritual objects or our ceremonial objects or something that has some sort of, heightened sacred intent and meaning and purpose and value, and we take it to the outdoors and we take it to nature. And when we put it in nature, it's best to make a circle of whatever sort, and I made my circle with actually the stems of the flowers that I had gathered for the new moon ceremony a couple of weeks ago. And then I put my 3 medicine stones of the south, my 3 kuyas of the south, and I placed them in the circle that had been delineated on the ground, in the dirt, outside in the outdoors. And every day in my morning meditation, I would go out and I would just look at what was there, see if any messages came through, sense what I was supposed to learn from this sand painting. And mostly it stayed fairly steady. And I was really actually surprised at how little the wind had changed anything. Until the 3rd day, when there was like one, I think it's just sort of like an old dried out, not a palm frond, but like one of those thick reedy kind of plant pieces. It's not quite a leaf, not quite a spine. And I said, okay, the wind is here. Thank you, Yansa. Yansa appeared in my tarot this morning. Thank you, Yansa, for bringing the wind. And it was just a one sort of a wind that left this shape. It sort of divided everything in half, but it also just sort of, the main painting stayed steady. So it just reminded me that no matter what wind comes through, when we hold steady to the things that we know are true, the practices that feed us and nourish us, when we, I'm sorry, I got distracted. I love that there's a comment there. Yes, the withered roses in my desert garden. They're so beautiful, so I'm glad you appreciate that. So when we have that steadiness, and for me, it's really the balance between keeping it fresh and keeping it interesting and keeping it steady. Because if it's too steady, it gets boring for me. But if it's too fresh, it's too chaotic. And so we need a really nice balance, and how perfect that the equinox is coming up next week to remind us of that balance. And so what happened as soon as I removed my stones, I thought the sand painting was over. I removed my medicine stones. The next morning, the wind had really come in. And the wind had completely broken the arc of the circle that was between the west and the north. And I thought, oh, okay, I know what that is. Because the way I have structured this butterfly boot camp and my journey through it is that we do the south, and then we do the west, and then normally in the medicine we would go to the north. But I had always sensed that there was something missing in between the west and the north. And I was calling it a bridge, and I was like, there's something that goes on between the west and the north that is really, really important work that hadn't been really crystallized or stipulated as a phase or a stage. And I realized it's the cocoon. It's the cocoon of Butterfly Boot Camp. And so the cocoon is going to be episode 7, which is probably, I think, going to happen in December. So I'm looking ahead. I'm giving you a sort of a sneak preview of what the cocoon is. But I wanted to, I'll just read to you this that came through. We're rising from our ashes. We are entering the cocoon. We are building our wings out of the bones and ashes of our former selves. That's who I need in Butterfly Boot Camp with me. People who have already burned and are emerging from their ashes, ready for anything. So if that sounds like you, please reach out to me because we are starting Butterfly Boot Camp in October. And if you are ready for that kind of a spiritual adventure, I would love to have you. Now, here's the thing. Here's what happens in the cocoon. In the cocoon is the stage, the phase, where we do deep shadow work, deep dream work, including working with our nightmares. And that goes back to this idea about the sun. I apologize, I just don't have a good place to keep my book, so I keep bringing it over. This goes back to the work of dealing with our nightmares, which in my case as a native of Arizona, the sun sometimes is the nightmare. When we face our nightmares, we take a homeopathic dose of the nightmare image to call that into ourselves, to give us that little tiny bit of strength without going all into the extreme version of it. When you face a monster in your dream, when you face a nightmare in your dream, the best way to diffuse its power is to take a tiny little dose of it and bring it into you consciously so that you're not falling totally into it, but that you're not hiding from it. Because generally the things in our shadows are the things we're hiding from, the things we don't want to embrace or accept about ourselves. And that is what the sun sort of represents to me. I do need the sun in small doses. I can't be here in June and July and August because it's not healthy for me. But it is good for me to come here and get just a small dose of the sunlight to really, I can already see how much more my skin is glowing because I've spent just a little bit of time in the sun here in Phoenix. So I also wanted to talk about, yes. So the other realization I had last night, sorry if I'm a little distracted, but I was like, what did I mean when I wrote that? This happens to me all the time when I'm directing. I'll write notes during the rehearsal and I won't even be able to read what I'm writing. So I've been here for 14 days, right? I've spent 14 days unlearning a rhythm and a frequency. And now, at day 14, I'm going to be taking the next 7 days to be planting the seeds of a new reality. And I think they say that it takes 21 days to build a new habit. And I'm realizing now, because last night I sort of realized I was still trying to have those workaholic tendencies. I was still trying to, I gotta do, I gotta plan, I gotta have everything go in order, which is not the way the magic happens. Magic happens when we do a little bit, we do enough to keep our purpose on track, our life on our path, but to really surrender and to really allow Spirit to support us and contribute to the reality that we're co-creating. So what I would like to do is I would like to finish with another song. This is a song I wrote when I was singing in the blues band down in Itacaré, Bahia. Shout out to todos os meus amigos lá na Bahia, em Itacaré, todos os músicos tão queridos que eu já cantei com vocês. Saudade bem profunda para vocês. So this song is called Witches Blues, and I'm going to go ahead and dedicate it to that guy at the dispensary yesterday. So whoever you are, if you're listening. And I don't have a track for it, so I'm just going to sing it a cappella, but I am going to hydrate one more time. And I could only remember 2 verses when I wrote the lyrics down last night. I think there's a 3rd verse somewhere, but for today, you're going to get these 2 verses. Okay, I'm going to let's do this, and let's put this here. There we go, okay. Once upon a time, in another life, I was a wise woman that tried to burn me down, make me forget my coven. But the wisdom is deep, the wisdom is strong. It's all coming back to me after so long. Rise up, sisters, rise up now. We are the angels we've been waiting for. Rise up, sisters, rise up now. The time of domination is coming to a close. Greed is feeding on its own demise. There's a new way coming at the heart of the rose. We can be free if only we open our eyes. Rise up, sisters, rise up now. We are the angels we've been waiting for. The alchemy of fire gives our soul more power. Rise up, sisters, rise up now. So if you like this content, please subscribe. If you felt that you received anything of value, please consider donating. I'm going to put my link to my virtual tip jar in there. It goes in $5 increments. You can donate $5, $25, $50, $500, however much you want, as long as it's a multiple of 5. I know, that's math. But all you have to do is put in the number of times 5 you want. And if you're super curious about shamanic artistry, and you think you might be wanting to step into your own flavor of shamanic artistry, please reach out and get on my calendar for a discovery call, because Butterfly Bootcamp starts next month, and I would love to have fellow awakening souls who are embracing their inner cronehood to come join me for the ride. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon. Bye.